Look up, tune in, the night is calling you. Planets, comets, moon and stars, there's always something new. From stargazing to science, we'll guide you through the sky. With the ALPO family, reaching higher, looking high. So grab your scope, your notes, your dreams, let curiosity unlock it. You're listening now to the one and only Observer's Notebook Podcast.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Observer's Notebook, the official podcast of the Association of Lunar and Planetary Observers. Each episode, we share the latest discoveries, observing techniques, and stories from the people who explore the moon, planets, comets, and beyond. Whether you're looking through a backyard telescope or leading professional research, we are all united under one sky. I'm Tim Robertson, your host, and thank you for being here. Now, if you're usually listening to the podcast in your car or on your phone, did you know you can now watch it too? That's right. The Observer's Notebook is now available in video right here on the ALPO YouTube channel. And here's something else interesting. Over 70% of the people watching or listening are not subscribed. So take a quick second, hit that subscribe button, and ring that bell so you never miss another episode. It's free, and it really helps grow our channel. This show is made possible by support from you, our listeners. If you'd like to keep the Observer's Notebook going, check out our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/Observer's Notebook. For just $1 a month, you're supporting the show. For $5, you get early access to the podcast episodes. For $10, you receive a copy of the Novice Observer's Handbook. And for $35 a month, you'll be listed as a producer of this podcast. Of course, you can find out more about the ALPO. Just go to www.alpo-astronomy.org, where you can join the organization for as little as $22 a year. And now, let's get started with episode 241 of the Observer's Notebook Podcast. Enjoy. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody back to this edition of the Observer's Notebook Podcast. And today we're looking into one of the year's most anticipated celestial events, the deep partial lunar eclipse occurring on the night of August 27th to 28th. This is not a total eclipse. The moon will almost entirely pass within the Earth's umbra. It'll create a spectacular sight. It's going to be seen around the world, and it's going to be beautiful, but it won't be a total lunar eclipse. But we're going to talk about it today anyway. So we've invited two members of the ALPO on today. John O'Neill, he's the coordinator of the ALPO Eclipse section. John has spent decades observing and documenting eclipses and will walk us through exactly what we'll see during this eclipse, why this particular event is so special, and how you can make the most of your observing session, whether it's your first time or you're a seasoned observer. And we're also joined by Dave Teskey. He's a coordinator of the ALPO Lunar section. Dave will introduce to a fascinating world of crater contact timings, careful timings of well-known lunar craters when they disappear and emerge from the Earth's shadow. It's classic observing. It's something the ALPO did many, many years ago. I was involved with that program back in the 70s when John Westfall ran it, and I'm really happy to see it come back again. So, gentlemen, David, John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
So,
Glad
John,
to be here.
so why don't you just give us the big picture? What kind of eclipse is this? Everything.
Okay, well, I'll share my screen. And so your question was, what kind of an eclipse is this going to be? And it's, as you already mentioned, going to be a partial lunar eclipse. And whoops, it's not a total lunar eclipse because only 96.2% of the moon's surface is actually going to fall within the penumbra. A little 4% piece, a slice that you see in white in that image is going to be outside of the umbral shadow, and it's going to leave a bright area there. So I'm thinking that image right there pretty much represents what we're going to see for this eclipse.
Okay.
So, of course, when the moon moves through the center of the umbra, then we get a darker eclipse without that little bright. Can you see my mouse?
Yep.
Okay, you got that little bright area there.
Mm-hmm.
And the last eclipse that we observed in Texas was just inside. So this little 4% area was actually in here, and we still saw that bright strip because it was so close to the umbra. So I'm expecting this one's going to be a little brighter than the last one we saw.
Okay.
Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. So yeah, it's going to be 4% outside the umbral line, so it's going to be a little bright, and that's pretty much what we can expect to see is something just like this during totality.
Okay.
And I think your next question was, why is this going to be so dramatic?
Yeah.
Is that okay? There's two reasons I can come up with. The first reason being that this partial eclipse is going to be visible from a large portion of the Earth. And if you see the illustration in the upper left corner, you can see that almost all of America, North America, South America, parts of Africa, a big swath of the Earth is going to be able to see this. 987 million people, it says, or 12% of the world's population are going to see the entirety of the eclipse, and another 1.3 billion people will see parts of the eclipse.
Wow.
So that's over, potentially, if it's clear across the entire viewing area, 2 billion people could potentially see this eclipse. And guys, you know, everybody out there in the world just about has a cell phone now. So there's going to be a lot of images.
You need to increase the size of your mailbox.
Right. And we're hoping a lot of people are going to be submitting their images to the ALPO, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The second reason that this particular eclipse is going to be dramatic is because we haven't had a good partial lunar eclipse in quite a while. And it's going to be quite a while until we see another one. So it's when you have a big time lapse like that with nothing going on as far as partial lunar eclipses, and then you get one, it's dramatic.
Right.
But don't despair about that long lapse of time without any lunar eclipses, because on the very last day, December 31st of 2027, we'll be seeing the great New Year's total lunar eclipse.
Oh.
It's going to take place as the ball's dropping in New York. This eclipse is going to be going on, and I think that's going to be a great cause for celebration. And all the amateurs are going to be out that night, so get to your site early and stay late. Okay.
Great.
Okay, I found a nice little illustration online here to demonstrate it. And you can see the lines on the sun, how they form the umbra and the penumbra. And as you can see, the penumbra is a lot lighter than the umbra. So the penumbra is what causes the beginning partial stages. And you know, when I was a younger man, I got real excited about the penumbral stages, but you can't really see a whole lot. You can make out some faint dimming, but I mean, it's about the same faint dimming you see when there's cirrus clouds in the sky too. So
true.
It's not much to look at, but when the moon hits that umbral shadow, that's when it starts looking like something is taking a bite out of the moon, and it starts getting really dark. So pretty much it's just the two different shadows coming from the sun that create the penumbra and the umbra and cause the eclipse to occur. It's, it's not rocket science. It's basically that simple.
Yeah. Now eclipses come in pairs usually, don't they?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's a total solar eclipse related to this.
Yep. And it'll be, oh, gee, you know the date, Tim. I
Yeah,
can't think of.
August 12th.
Yep, August 12th. And I'm going to miss that one. How are you going to see it, David? No. Tim, you,
Yeah, I'm going to be in Iceland for it. Yes.
all right.
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. Hopefully, clouds willing.
Yes. That's that's kind of going to be a crapshoot, I think.
Yeah.
That time of year and uh where it's going to be is
Right.
it'll be real interesting, but we've all got our fingers crossed for you and a whole lot of other people that I know are going that
Hmm.
way. And a lot of people are going to be going to Spain, I understand. And
Yeah. The span that's going to be right around sunset though, and
yeah, that
yeah,
makes it pretty iffy.
yeah, yeah.
But
And also the Perseids are going on right now too. So I got my fingers crossed that during totality I got a Perseid meteor shower and a photograph.
oh,
That's
yeah, we're
that's
going to the mountains for the Perseids
there
this
you
year.
go. Yeah.
Okay, so why does the moon turn red? So, as we all know, the moon doesn't have any light of its own. It shines reflected light from the sun. So, when the Earth moves in between the sun and the moon, the only light that strikes the moon is what comes around the sun. And as you can see from this little diagram, the blue and the greens get refracted away from the moon, and the red and orange wavelengths get refracted inward, and that's what strikes the surface of the sun and gives it that
Mm,
ruddy red glow
yeah.
or orange glow or brown glow I've seen. And the the technical term is Rayleigh scattering. That's when the light gets scattered inward
Hmm.
and causes that to happen. It's also the same phenomena that gives us colorful sunrises and sunsets. As the sun is rising and setting and that light's getting scattered inward, it causes the horizons to look red, and as the blue and green light gets scattered outward, it causes our sky to turn blue. Uh, Another factor is the layer of air that's surrounding the Earth is made up of gases, and there's
Hmm.
water droplets, and there's dust particles, and there's all kinds of things. Right now, we got 180 some Canadian wildfires going on, throwing a lot of
Yeah.
smoke up into the sky. And if we have something going on like that during this eclipse, it could make for a very beautiful eclipse.
Hmm.
Uh, so that's basically in a nutshell what makes the moon turn red.
Okay, great.
We sort of just went over that, but
Hmm.
it's all the dust particles, water droplets, clouds, mist, volcanic ash, dust, smoke in the atmosphere. And scientists use what's called the Danjon schedule or scale, I'm sorry, the Danjon scale to gauge the brightness of the moon during an eclipse. And this is basically done at the point of maximum, uh, the moon being maximum on the center line. So in the diagram where it says maximum, that's about where the moon is going to be when you would want to make this reading. And as you can see here, there's quite a color range.
Hmm.
And as we discussed a few minutes ago, that all is set up by what's in our atmosphere and how much it affects that particular eclipse. It's a 5-point scale, goes from 0 to 4. And I think over the years, I've seen every one of these scales take place.
Yeah.
I mentioned the eclipse in Texas a couple years back was one of the darkest eclipses that I've ever seen. And I have images with star fields surrounding the moon. It was that dark.
Yeah,
You could actually,
it looked like a black hole.
yeah, Tim?
It looked like a
Yeah,
black
it
hole.
did, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. It was very dark. And all the years I've been watching eclipses, that was the very first one I've seen that dark.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I've seen everything along that scale, but that one kind of threw me because I didn't expect to ever see one that dark and the stars just popping out. And I actually have images of that with the stars in the field. It's a pretty image.
Yeah.
Hey, John,
Yes.
what was happening on Earth's atmosphere around the time of that dark eclipse? Were there volcanoes or anything?
I don't think there was any particular thing going on in the atmosphere, but the eclipse was right on the center line.
Okay.
So with it being right on the center line, there was a huge area surrounding it of darkness. And I think that's probably the main contributor to that one being so dark. It's always, the moon is always moving back and forth across that line. So it's kind of rare to see one right dead center on the line.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So what will people see? Starwalk had a really nice slide on their site. And you can see in the red the areas of the United States and that are in the entire visible range. So anybody in the eastern United States is going to see the entire eclipse from start to finish. If you're in the orange, you're going to see the maximum phase, but you're going to miss parts of the beginning and the end of it. Everybody out here in this bluish gray range is only going to see a little bit of the partial phase. And the poor guys in white, they're only going to see the penumbral, so they're not going to see much.
Well, there's not many people up there anyway.
Yeah, right. And I included another map so you can see it across the entirety of the Earth. And so you can see Eastern Africa is going to have a pretty good view. The rest of Africa is not so much. And you start getting over into here and it's not good. And all these poor guys out here aren't going to see anything. But still, 2 billion people seeing this eclipse, I think is really amazing. Okay, viewing tips. Whether you watch the eclipse naked eye with binoculars, if you use a small telescope or a large telescope like some of the ones I have, it doesn't really matter. Eclipses, I found when I was young and didn't have telescopes, I did have binoculars, but I spent a lot of time looking at eclipses naked eye, and it's quite fun.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't need anything. But if you do want to get started into using some sort of optical aids, I would start with binoculars. A lot of us don't have binoculars, but a lot of us might know somebody that does, our parents or grandparents or aunts or uncles, or maybe our friends, or somebody's going to have a pair of binoculars you can probably borrow. But the main thing I would suggest is if you want to use optical aids and you don't have any, find your local astronomy club and visit them, because there's going to be a whole bunch of people there that have all kinds of equipment. And there's probably going to be someone there that's going to say, here, use my binoculars, or here, you could use my telescope. I've found that amateur astronomy clubs are great places to go to learn and to find people that'll share their equipment with you.
Good
But
tip.
if you, pardon me?
That's a good tip.
Yes, thank you. Another good tip, and I can't stress this one enough. If you want to do anything other than just visually watching it with your eyes, if you're going to use any kind of equipment, these eclipses happen during the full moon. So you got weeks and weeks of the moon in the sky to start preparing. Take whatever instrument you might be using and take it out and practice with it. If you're just using your smartphone, if you're using a pair of binoculars with a smartphone hooked to the back, or a DSLR, it doesn't matter what you're using. Go out days and weeks before and practice and figure it out and learn what you need to learn, because my experience has been that learning during the event, it doesn't work.
Right.
If you're using a telescope, use a low power eyepiece.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of people think, well, gee, this telescope goes to 180 power. That's what I need. And it's not what you need. Looking at the moon through a telescope in a 4-power eyepiece sometimes is pretty spectacular. And another viewing tip, if, God forbid, it gets cloudy, get on the web and watch it on a streaming service. Go watch the eclipse take place somewhere else, because you can't see it through the clouds. So rather than miss it, I'd prefer to watch it on TV than not see it happen at all.
True.
Okay. I'm just going to be brief with this. Most of you, if you're going to use a camera, you already know how to use it. And if you don't, like I said, you need to get out and practice. But here's some tips. Use your camera. This is if you're using a DSLR. Use manual mode. That gives you full control over the settings of the camera. You don't want to put the camera in automatic mode like you do when you're shooting in a restaurant or shooting in a wherever you happen to be and you're out shooting. You want full control over the camera. You want to set your ISO settings. And the moon's quite bright, especially for photography. The moon is very bright. So start it with a very low ISO, about 100 or 200. And then as the eclipse progresses, you might want to jump it up to 400, 800, and shoot longer exposures. Your aperture, if you have a lens with aperture, you want to keep it around f8 to f11. You don't want the lens wide open, because most lenses aren't as sharp wide open as they are stopped down. Shutter speeds start at 125th to 102 to 1/250th of a second for the bright phases, and then slowly back to shutter speed down, maybe 1 second. If it gets really, really dark, and since this one's a partial eclipse, I don't expect it to be really dark, but you may have to go longer than a second. Focal length, I've found 300 to 400 millimeter lenses are probably best if you're just using a camera and a lens. That'll give you an image with the moon filling up probably over half to 2/3 of the frame. Additional photography tips: use a tripod. Please don't think you're going to take a 300 millimeter lens out there and take pictures of the moon and they're not going to be blurry. They are. So use a tripod. Use an intervalometer or some method of firing the camera without you touching it with your finger. And if that's the only recourse you have is to push the shutter button with your finger, find the setting to give a 3-second delay. The way you touch the camera, you let go, within 3 seconds, it's settled down and not shaking anymore, and then it'll take the image.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get a tracking mount, that's always nice, especially if you have to get up into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 second exposures. It's really good to have a tracking mount so that the camera is following it and not moving across the frame as you're taking the image and blurring it. Weather and location. Light pollution is not such a big deal during a lot of eclipses, but if you've got an eclipse that towards the end it's getting down into the horizon, or towards the beginning it's down low to the horizon, the light pollution can cause you some problems then. But with most of this eclipse, it's, for us in the United States, it's going to be high in the sky, so eclipse or light pollution shouldn't be a problem for this eclipse. And again, I can't say it enough, before the eclipse, practice your settings, familiarize yourself with your camera's controls, and that will go a long way in garnering your successful images.
Yeah, very good.
Okay, I use, a lot of people like me to tell them, well, shoot at these settings, but as I said earlier, you got that Danjon scale. Some eclipses are dark, some are bright. It's hard to tell you, you have to use this setting, because as soon as I tell you that, it's going to be a dark or a light eclipse and those settings are no good no more. So use your histogram. That's the easiest way I can tell you to watch your settings, is use that histogram. Another important consideration is if you want to shoot wide field or close-up images of the eclipse. When you shoot wide field, that means the moon is going to be smaller on your frame. And the smaller it is, the less detail you have and the less resolution. So I try to always use, if I'm using a camera and a lens, use a 300 or 400 and get 2/3 of the frame in the field. That way you've got nice resolution. Time lapses are another consideration. And if you want to do any time lapses, you have to kind of make a plan in the beginning. Plan to take an image every so often at predetermined intervals. So you don't want to shoot 4 or 5 images at 5 seconds apart and then go to 20 seconds apart and then go to 3 seconds apart, because when you try to stitch them together into an animation, the moon's going to be jerking around all over the place. Try to keep it at a set, fixed time elapse for each image, and then the eclipse will move slowly across your image when you stitch it all together. And if you're going to do a time lapse where the eclipse is going to go from beginning to end, you got to realize the eclipse is like almost 5 hours long. So you got to consider how far the moon is going to move across the sky in that 5 hours, and make sure you have a lens wide enough to cover that entire range. And because of that, I usually don't, when I do a time lapse, I don't include the penumbral portion. That way I'm down to just maybe 2 hours. That way I only need 30 degrees of sky instead of 100 and some degrees of sky to make a time lapse. And when you put them all together, that's called making a stopgap animation. There's several software programs out there I use. IMPPG comes to mind. PIP comes to mind. They're very good for taking individual camera frames and stitching them together into videos. Whoops. Okay, this one's kind of big and long-winded here, but we have so many people out there with smartphones. I felt I had to at least go over this briefly. So if anyone at home is watching and wants to remember all this, just take a picture of your screen right now and you'll have all this information at your disposal later. But plan and prepare for it. Make sure you bring your charger. If you're going to be out there for the whole 5 hours of the eclipse, your phone's going to maybe start going dead on you, especially if you're taking lots and lots of images. If you're using a smartphone for the eclipse, you're going to have to need a smartphone tripod. And those are relatively inexpensive. I think I paid $100 for mine, and it's carbon fiber. It's very light, folds up down to about a foot, stretches out to 6 feet. And it even came with a little button to press to take images. Yeah, get the eclipse times, and there's several apps, Skyview Light, Starwalk 2, NASA's eclipse page will give you the timing so you know what's coming and when you need to make changes. You can keep the ISO low. The main thing is with the smartphone, use one of your apps that control the camera. And I'm not going to go into all the different apps out there because there's lots and lots, and it depends on whether you have Apple or Android, what apps you're going to want to use. So if your phone supports it, use RAW format. That way, when you're done, you can take those images and dump them into a real image processing package and do some really nice stuff. If you got an iPhone 11 or later, night mode is a really nice app. Make sure you turn the flash off. It says here to avoid glare, but you're probably not going to get glare because you're shooting out into space. But the main reason is every time that flash goes off, that's taking a chunk of your battery power away from you. So keep it off, save that battery power for when you need it. After you're all done, you can download the images from your phone, excuse me, and dump them into your favorite editing software and adjust your shadows, your highlights, your contrast. You can consider doing a high def HDR image, bracketing if your phone supports it, and I think a lot of them do now. Common mistakes to avoid. There's two I can think of immediately. Don't put the phone in automatic mode and expect to get results. It's not going to happen. And always check your focus before you shoot. Always. These phones don't have a lot of the high power computing power that most of your cameras do. And sometimes they slip in and out of focus. Okay. And what do we do if it's cloudy?
Right.
I've seen a lot of eclipse and I've been clouded out a lot of times. Some I have absolutely seen nothing. Some I've miraculously near totality, had it just clear up for 5 minutes, and I was able to get one or two shots. But for the most part, I've had good luck, but it doesn't always happen. So there's a couple of websites I mentioned here, timeanddate.com, and you can copy the slide, save it, and use that address at timeanddate.com. Also, they have a YouTube channel, and I believe NASA, if you go on their website, they're going to be covering it in a live stream also. So if you're going to do a live stream, check beforehand, find out who's going to be doing it, when, where, what time. Make sure you have a good, stable internet connection. I don't know why it says and a clear view of the sky. If it's cloudy, you're not going to see it. So, whoops. And there's the URLs down there. And the last important thing I want to say about this eclipse is please don't forget to contribute your images to ALPO. These images will get posted on the ALPO website in the eclipse gallery, and some may be selected for possible inclusion in the ALPO publication, the Strolling Astronomer magazine. And if you get a picture in there, it's like getting a picture in the Rolling Stone, in my consideration. So we do have some requirements. If you want to submit your images, sketches, drawings, written reports of eclipses to the eclipse section, send them to me at eclipse@alpoastronomy.org, and I'll get those and we'll make sure they get on the website. And I don't select which ones go in the magazine, but the people that work on the magazine will select some of those images to put into the magazine. But in order to make your report valid scientifically, we'd ask that when you submit images, you submit some information like your name, your location, what the date and time of your observations or images or reports are, and use a UT, universal time date, any exposure timing details, where the moon was when you took the eclipse, how high above the ground was it, what direction were you facing, and the brands and model of any equipment, whether it's a telescope to mount, the eyepiece to camera, mobile phone, what the weather was like, what was the temperature, was it clear, was it partly clear, was there high thin cirrus in the sky at the time, and any other comments you care to submit with your images. And all that makes your images scientifically valid. Whereas if you just send in information, nobody knows where it was taken, when it was taken. It doesn't have a lot of value. So please, guys, submit your pictures and submit your information, and we'll make sure that it gets into the website. And that's all I have. So thank you for attending my portion of the presentation.
Thanks, John.
And that's all I have. So I'll stop sharing here.
Okay. David, so what are creator contact timings?
I'm going to try sharing here. I don't have nearly as much of a slideshow as John did because there aren't too many slides available for this. But what I'd encourage you to do when you see this eclipse, look at John's presentation. It was great. Get your smart telescope out and smartphones. Take pictures of the eclipse, and if you can do so, do it kind of automatically. And while you're doing that, get out your other telescope and do crater contact timings. And what this is once the lunar eclipse starts, once the umbra of the eclipse starts, it will move across the moon slowly, and it will cross craters like, let's say, Tycho right here. And all you're going to do is time when you think the Earth's shadow crosses the center of, say, Tycho. And you'd think that's pretty easy, but if you look, that shadow's boundary is fuzzy. And the problem that we see actually developed back in 1702. There was a French astronomer, Pierre Lahire. He used this idea of where the moon is going into the Earth's umbra, and he made predictions of when various craters should be eclipsed by the umbra, and he found out he was wrong. And we're still wrong today. We need to do the timings to figure out what's going on. The best guess is he had to add about 1% onto the size of the Earth to cover for those crater timings. And the reasons for that are the Earth's atmosphere. Again, as John said, the condition of the atmosphere, like fires, volcanoes, that sort of stuff, are unusually clear. And also, the Earth is not a nice, perfect sphere, but it's oblate. So its shadow is not perfectly a circle. So there's all sorts of reasons why the crater timings is not exact. And it's one of the reasons we need our ALPO members and non-ALPO members to give this a try of crater timings. This has been going on for a long, long, long time. Again, in 1702, this discrepancy was noticed, and we've been timing crater contacts since then. In recent years, there have been fewer people doing this timings and more people, of course, taking images of the eclipse. I propose that you do both. Take the images and do the crater timings. And it's a tricky situation to do. Here we have the full moon going into the Earth's umbra. You can see it's this fuzzy boundary right here. And right here is the crater Copernicus. Most all of us are familiar with Copernicus, the monarch of the moon. It's a beautiful crater. You can't miss it. But when the Earth's shadow gets nearby, goodness, is that Copernicus? Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. And where is the center of this shadow? It's always tricky to determine. Some reports I see say that you should do your best at timing when the shadow, say, reaches the first wall of Copernicus, the western wall, and when it reaches the eastern or last wall of Copernicus, do that timing, divide by 2, and wherever that is the center of Copernicus. That sounds like a whole lot of work to me, more work than is necessary. So what I do is I time it right when my best guess is when it's the center of Copernicus. If you do it at your house, you're going to have a slightly different time than mine, but I bet it's within 30 seconds or so if we do it fairly consistent. And here again, you see the shadow moving across the moon. And this sequence of pictures took about 20 minutes to take. So you say, well, the shadow moves over there pretty slowly. It can't be that hard. Actually, for the shadow to, say, overtake Tycho, this very prominent crater right here, it might take 2 minutes. And just when is it at the center of Tycho? So your eyeball has to be right glued to your telescope and looking at, say, Tycho and the shadow to get that timing just right. So it is a fast-paced sport because along with, say, looking at Tycho, you might be looking at, say, Manalus up here, which happens a minute later. So, you're going to have to know your craters, like let's say Tycho, and you're going to have to know, say, this bright one up here named Manalus, and get ready to do the timings. And to do that, on this podcast, we have a table right here in the Journal of ALPO in the summer edition that's out right now. We have this table. We have it in the August issue of the Lunar Observer. Get a copy of this table, print it out. I print it on cardstock because it'll be moist outside. And these are the predicted times right here of crater immersions. And here is the universal time of crater emersions when it comes out of the Earth's shadow. So you can see that the predicted time is 2:39 U time for the crater Riccioli, which is a dark-floored crater over on the west limb of the moon. As John said in his excellent presentation, practice, practice, practice. Go out beforehand, look at these craters, identify, at least a good number of them. I use a laminated sky and telescopes moon map to help me because really this does happen quick. So I'm predicting at 2:39, the center of the Earth's umbral shadow will be at the center of the crater Riccioli. Well, maybe, maybe not. I'm going to time it, and I'll probably be within 1 or 2 minutes of that. But, we time it. And then look, 1 minute later, the crater Grimaldi, which is a large dark-floored crater right by Riccioli, is going to be in their Earth's shadow again. So time that. And then you get a couple 3-minute break, and Billy comes up, another very dark-floored crater on Ocean Procelarium, and time that. Now, wow, I got a 7 or 8 minute break. Wow, that's good. Which one of those craters is Campanus? I do the Lunar Observer every month, and I still have to look which crater is that on my moon map. So I get a few minute break to figure that out. And we do that as best we can. If you miss Campanus, you just can't find it, no problem. Just wait a few more minutes, go to the next one down. Kepler, time it. You'll see Kepler easy enough. You'll certainly see Copernicus, time it. Keep going. If you miss Pythias because you don't know where it is, no problem. Skip down till you find one that you can do. And then at about 4:18 Universal Time, whoopee, we're at maximum eclipse. It's going to be nice and observe it, take your pictures, all that stuff, grab a cup of coffee or whatever. And then a few minutes later comes the tricky part, the crater immersions. At 4:32, so this is about 15 minutes later, the crater Plato is predicted to emerge from the Earth's shadow, which is Plato's right up by the northern limb. And if you're at all a moon gazer, you know what the crater Plato is. It's a large, very dark-floored crater up above Mare Imbrium. You can't miss it. But you know what? When you're doing these crater timings, you can. Even a very familiar crater like Plato looks very, very different when it's in the Earth's shadow and you're looking through your telescope. Goodness, is that Plato or not? And I will miss quite a few of these, even common ones, but do the best you can. And if, say, you get Plato, mark down the time to the best of your ability, and keep going. Again, for us on Central Daylight Time, this will be a pleasant time. It'll be over by like 3 in the morning. Now, what I do is I use a small telescope, a 90 millimeter Maxitoff, at about 50 power. I would suggest a similar small telescope, low magnification, not real low, but enough to cover the full moon. And then I have my printed out sheet of the crater timings that I just showed you. And I go to time.gov and we'll get the official time of the United States. And what you're really concerned about is up here in the upper right, the universal time. So if I'm looking at the crater Tycho, and just now I see this, I determine that the shadow of Tycho, or the shadow of the Earth's umbra, just crosses Tycho. This is on my phone, open on my phone. I tap my phone and I'll see this time. And you know what? I can get it down to almost the second when I think it's right. So I would write the hour, the minute, and the second as best I could. Now I realize I'll be a few seconds off, but I do the best I can there, and it works. So the equipment I need is a small telescope, fairly low magnification. I really encourage you to use something like time.gov because it gives the U time to the nearest second, and a pen, the sheet that I just showed you of crater timings, and work that way. You might want to use a voice recorder or a video to do it as well. Other timing software of your choice. But the idea is if we get a handful of these timings sent in to us here at the Lunar Topographic section, we will get them together. We'll send them in. Sky and Telescope often does a bit of work with this crater timing. Roger Synott at Sky and Telescope's done this for years. The Royal Astronomical Society of Canada is also doing this, encouraging this crater timing. So we might get a good handful of observations. Again, you will want to be taking the images that John just talked about. Do that in the background, but also have your regular telescope set up and submit these images. Go back. And you will be able to fill out this table pretty much, and you'll be doing some visual astronomy that's been kind of passed by the wayside in all this new era of smart telescopes. I love mine. It's a great little tool, but this visual astronomy is the heart of our science. As John said about the photography, as I say about this, practice, practice, practice ahead of time, trying to identify the majority of these craters. Keep your notes simple. A voice recorder would make it nice. And don't really worry about perfection. If you miss a crater or two, no big deal. You're still going to be making a valuable scientific recording. And when you're all done, submit this to us here at the Lunar Topographic section of ALPO. It's easiest at david.teskey@alpoastronomy.org.
Yeah, this is good information. I used to do these years ago, and I plan on doing this one. But a misconception a lot of people have, and you mentioned that too, the shadow of the Earth is not a line. It's
It's
a
fuzzy as can be.
it's a diffuse band, and every observer has their own measurement tool in their brain for where the center of the shadow is, and just be consistent with what you're using
Exactly. Keep it
all the way
consistent.
across. And like
Yeah,
you also mentioned, I would select half a dozen craters that you already know. Get familiar with them. Look at them a couple nights before the eclipse. Make sure you can find them and practice on those.
Yep.
And then when the eclipse takes place, use your scale in your brain of where the center of the shadow is. I used to do it like you mentioned early on, when the shadow first hit the rim of the crater, and then when it hit the other rim of the crater, and then I would divide that in half. That's how we did it back in the day. But that's, you know,
That would be great if you could do that. Let's put
yeah,
it that
yeah. It's. I would try doing that, and then if that's too difficult, just wait till you think it's in the middle.
way. Yep.
But learning the shadow of the moon, what it looks like, or the shadow of the Earth actually, what it looks like as it passes the moon. It takes some time to actually distinguish the line of the shadow.
And oddly enough, this is a very fast-paced sport. It's probably the
Hmm.
fastest thing you'll do in astronomy, right? I mean,
Yeah. I mean, you want to see the moon move across the sky. This is one way to watch it in real time.
yep.
Great. Great.
And please send those crater timing reports into me at the Lunar Topographic section. Please send your images into John O'Neill at the Eclipse section.
Now, also, lunar eclipses make great outreach events for individuals and for clubs and organizations. So if you have a local club, make sure they're doing an outreach event
Oh, yes.
for the eclipse, and talk to them about crater timings and how to image, turn them onto this podcast. I mean, you can always share this with your entire astronomy clubs too, and they'll all be educated in this as well. But you know, it's a good opportunity to get the public involved with astronomy.
Right.
Mhm.
Now, how can what are some of your favorite eclipse stories? John, do you have any favorite eclipse stories?
Um, well, one does come to the top of my head because it wasn't my favorite.
Hmm.
We drove out to the coast and rented a cabin, and it was a little expensive, and we rented it for 3 nights. And an hour before the eclipse began, it started pouring down rain until an hour after the eclipse ended, and then it cleared right up.
Oh.
Beautiful skies overhead. And I remember it fondly, I think, because we still had a good time out there on the coast.
Hmm.
We still got to do a lot of things and go to a lot of places and eat some fancy seafood. And it was a good time, but we totally missed
Yeah.
the eclipse. So uh, just, I remember it because it was an abysmal failure, but we had a wonderful time.
Well, there
So,
you go. You made the best of the situation.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. How are you,
How
David?
about you, David?
I remember the lunar eclipse. It was in the summer of 1982.
Oh.
Uh, my family was going on a vacation to my uncle's in Rockford, Illinois. I hauled a big old telescope in the trunk of their car. I don't know why they let me do that. And I watched the eclipse there from the backyard. And this was shortly after El Chichichan down in Mexico. So the atmosphere was very polluted and it was a very dark eclipse. It was beautiful.
Hmm.
Little better luck than John on that
So, how about you, Tim?
Oh, wow. Favorite lunar eclipse? There's been so many. Um,
one.
I know.
I think it was the one back in the 90s that was like a black dot. It's because I talk about the Dodgen scale and to actually see a black.
Yes.
I mean, you can't see there. You couldn't see any detail on the surface of the moon at all. And like
Yeah.
you mentioned, it looked
It's
like
like,
a black dot in the sea of stars.
yes. Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
like there's a hole there with no stars in it.
that's right. That's pretty wild.
But
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it'll happen this eclipse because it's still a little bit partial, but I like watching a total eclipse. I'm in a fairly dark location here. You have the full moon, and it gets darker and darker and darker, and all of a sudden the Milky Way comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of
That's
course,
pretty cool.
it gets lighter, the Milky Way goes away.
Yeah. So if you could only bring one telescope to an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, what would you bring?
Binoculars.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dave?
Small telescope
Yeah. Okay.
that tracks.
Yeah.
Now, David, you mentioned a little bit about smart telescopes. Are they valuable for observing lunar eclipses?
I believe so, yes, because I have contributors sending in images all the time of phases of the moon through their sea stars and such. So I'm assuming yes.
Okay. Good.
How they'll compensate the exposure? John, do you know that?
I've done 2 so far, and the exposure changes so slowly that you have plenty of time to make adjustments.
Oh God.
Yeah. But yeah, I've got the Sea Star S50, and I've shot 2 lunar eclipses and 1 solar eclipse with it, and 1 partial solar eclipse with it. Couple of ISS transits over the sun and moon with it. So the S50s are, well, all of them. I mean, any of the smart scopes, they're all great. So
yeah, I plan on using mine. The S50.
Which one do you have?
The S50.
Okay.
Yeah, on it as well. I was going to bring it on the solar eclipse, but I'm going to be on a ship, and I don't know how well it would track being on a ship. So I thought better about that. So
yeah,
but I only got 2 minutes, and I don't want to mess with optics during 2 minutes of totality on that. So
yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Well, thank you very much for sharing your expertise and your insights to the lunar eclipse coming up. John, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
I do not. I just want to say thank you, Tim, for inviting me back, and Dave. I always enjoy doing these interviews and hope to do many, many more.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
All right. And David?
Thanks much for having me on. It's good to see you and John. I encourage all our viewers here to do both. Do the viewing of the eclipse, do the photography, but also try to do the crater timings. Do something different.
Yeah. Yeah. Turn stargazing to science, I like to say.
Yes.
Good idea.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. I will put your contact information in the show notes so people can get a hold of you with their observations and any questions.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Observer's Notebook podcast. Again, I want to thank John and David for coming on today and give us their expert insights to the upcoming partial lunar eclipse. Get out there and enjoy it. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment and give us a thumbs up and subscribe and share the podcast. It really helps bring more listeners. New episodes of the Observer's Notebook are released on the 1st and 15th of every month. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, and the ALPO YouTube channel. You can help support the podcast by donating it through Patreon. For a few dollars a month, up to $35, you will receive exclusive benefits, including a 1-year membership to the ALPO and producer credits right here on the show. You'll find links to the Patreon page and the ALPO website in the show notes. And a special thank you, as always, to our producers of this podcast, Steve Siedentop and Michael Moyer, for the continued generous support. And if you'd like to reach out to me, my email address is tim.robertson@alpoastronomy.org. Thanks for joining us today. Clear skies.